On June 6, 1944, a grey dawn broke over the English Channel, revealing one of the most extraordinary military armadas ever assembled. Nearly 7,000 ships carried more than 130,000 Allied soldiers toward the coast of Nazi-occupied France. Protected by thousands of aircraft roaring overhead, at the same time, almost 20,000 paratroopers were dropped behind enemy lines. By the end of the day, more than 10,500 Allied soldiers and thousands of German defenders would be killed, wounded, or missing. Yet despite the terrible cost, the invasion succeeded. Within 11 weeks, Paris would be liberated and the path toward Berlin would finally be opened. The decision to launch this enormous operation had been made months earlier at the Tehran Conference. In December 1943, there, three powerful leaders, Soviet leader Joseph Stalin, British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, and US President Franklin D. Roosevelt agreed that the Allies needed to open a second front in Western Europe. Since Germany had invaded the Soviet Union in 1941, Stalin had been demanding such an operation to reduce the enormous pressure on Soviet forces fighting in the East. After long debates and hesitation, the Allied leaders finally agreed to invade German-occupied France in a massive assault that would become known as Operation Overlord. Meanwhile, Adolf Hitler had long feared an Allied invasion from across the Channel. To prepare for it, Germany constructed the enormous Atlantic Wall, a vast network of bunkers, mines, and artillery positions stretching thousands of miles from Norway to the border of Spain. Forced laborers from across occupied Europe were compelled to build these defenses, pouring millions of tons of concrete into fortifications designed to repel any invasion. To strengthen the defenses further, Hitler appointed the famous German general Erwin Rommel, known as the Desert Fox, to oversee the protection of the European coastline. In January 1944, the Allied commander Dwight D. Eisenhower arrived in London to finalize plans for the invasion. Alongside him were key commanders such as Omar Bradley and British Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery. They selected the beaches of Normandy as the invasion site, believing the German defenses there were weaker than those in the heavily fortified Potomac region. To keep the Germans confused, the Allies launched an enormous deception campaign using fake armies, inflatable tanks, and false radio signals to convince German intelligence that the invasion would take place elsewhere. On the night of June 5th, thousands of Allied soldiers waited nervously aboard ships and aircraft as storms battered the Channel. The weather was so dangerous that the entire operation nearly had to be cancelled. After intense discussions with meteorologists, Eisenhower made the historic decision to proceed with the invasion on June 6. Before the operation began, he personally visited the paratroopers of the 101st Airborne Division and wished them luck, knowing many would not survive the coming battle. In the early hours of June 6th, Allied bombers attacked German coastal defenses, while paratroopers landed deep behind enemy lines. At dawn, naval guns began firing from the massive fleet as landing craft moved towards the beaches of Utah Beach, Omaha Beach, Gold Beach, Juno Beach, and Sword Beach. The fighting was especially brutal at Omaha Beach, where American troops faced intense machine gun fire from German bunkers positioned on high cliffs. Landing craft were destroyed, soldiers drowned under the weight of their equipment, and the beach quickly filled with dead and wounded men. Because of the horrific casualties, Omaha would later become known as Bloody Omaha. Despite the heavy losses, the Allied soldiers slowly pushed forward. By the end of the day, they had secured footholds on all 5 beaches. allowing thousands more troops, vehicles, and supplies to land in Normandy. The success of the landings marked the beginning of the liberation of Western Europe. Over the following weeks, Allied forces fought fierce battles across Normandy, capturing key locations such as Cherbourg and eventually breaking through German defenses near Cannes. By August 1944, German forces in Normandy had been surrounded and crushed in the devastating Falaise Pocket Battle. Soon afterward, Allied troops advanced toward Paris, which was liberated on August 25th. The success of the Normandy landings opened the road into Germany itself and marked a decisive turning point in World War II. Although victory eventually followed, it came at a tremendous cost. Tens of thousands of soldiers lost their lives during the campaign, many of them young men whose names would never become famous, but whose sacrifices helped change the course of history.